Hello and welcome to Medica on the Polish-Ukrainian border. Now what I'm doing here, I'm about to go into Ukraine, but what I also want to do though before I get there is to actually show people some of the assistance which is being offered by international organizations to help refugees here. So, I'm sorry, I'm having some difficulty here with the camera, but anyway, let's turn the camera around. You can have a quick look. So this is the place where people would get onto the bus or get off if they're going in my direction. First thing they actually see is this, which is the humanitarian rescue, and as you can see it's coming from a Chinese organization, and so this is the biggest take down the Chinese Communist Party, so we assume it's anti-communist. Now obviously I don't want to turn this into too much of a political thing, but some of you may have noticed in the past that my feelings towards communism hasn't been entirely positive. So this is the largest tent which is here, and it says here, new federal state of China citizens stands with Ukrainians. So as we go in here, we'll find out. We've got this rather large tent here, as many are offering food and things, and here we have somebody who's going to tell us all about the federal state of China. So what is your name, please?
Welcome to our tent.
Yeah.
So my name is Nicole and I'm from US, but I'm a member of the new federal state of China. New federal state of China.
Yeah. So unless I haven't seen the news today, but has something happened in China to overthrow the Chinese Communist Party, or is this at the moment a wish for the future?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a movement called the Chinese whistleblower movement, which was started back in 2017 by Mr. Mao Square. And he escaped the communist China, and he started whistleblowing against the Chinese Communist Party about its crimes against humanity, and especially about its persecution of the Chinese people in a massive scale. And so he's the founder and leader of the new federal state of China. So this movement has been going on for 5 years. But many people haven't heard about it because we've been censored by the mainstream media. The Chinese Communist Party has been spreading its influence all over the world, and including the Western mainstream media. So a lot of the mainstream media have been practicing self-censorship. They have been silencing our voice. So I'm so glad you came to Medica and see our existence. We have the largest and most well-equipped tent, as you can see. This is a very well-built tent. And beginning in early March, we have received over 16,000 Ukrainian refugees. And this tent also provides, a comfortable place for all the international volunteers and freelancer journalists like yourself and many media professionals. They've been here using our free Wi-Fi. And our free Wi-Fi, the username is Federal State of China, and our password is takedown CCP.
That's a good password. Yes. And okay, so let's first of all ask about the Ukraine situation.
Yeah.
How do you, or not necessarily you as a person, but how do you as a organization feel about what's happening now in Ukraine?
Yes. So I'm a volunteer, and all of the people here working for this operation, we're all volunteers sponsored by the Rule of Law Foundation in New York. And the Rule of Law Foundation in New York has a mission to take down the Chinese Communist Party because they consider it a humanitarian cause to free the 1.4 billion Chinese people still struggling under the communist dictatorship. So speaking of the Ukraine, we all know the Chinese Communist Party has a part in this war, in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And Xi Jinping is Putin's friend. And so the Chinese Communist Party has been providing moral support, military assistance, and probably financial support for this war. So everybody knows that the Chinese Communist Party is standing on the wrong side of the history. But listen, this is the most important thing, that the Chinese Communist Party does not represent the Chinese people. So in this, the whole Ukrainian refugee operation, you don't see the Chinese government people, you don't see anybody sent by the Chinese Communist Party. What you see here is the new Chinese people from the new federal state of China, because as our vest clearly displays our mission, we are taking down the Chinese Communist Party. We're overthrowing that evil dictatorship. And we have a mission to defend the world peace, security, rule of law by taking down the most threatening existential threat to the humanity, which is the Chinese Communist Party.
Do you think that Putin, because at the end of the day, Putin claims to be anti-communist, do you think that he is really a communist, or he couldn't care less?
Action speaks louder, and we learned that politicians, they can have glee, but they can talk very nice things. But let's take a look at their action. This invasion to Ukraine is absolutely wrong. And also, the Chinese Communist Party has been supporting Putin, so they've been colluding, and so that's the action that we only believe in action. We don't believe in words, and so we condemn this war, and we stand with the Ukrainian people, and that's why. Beginning in March this year, we've been coming here to support the Ukrainian people, and so we have received so many Ukrainian mother, children, and grandmas, because most of the men are left behind fighting the war, and we need to be here for the victims of the war, and we need to stand on the right side of the history.
So when did this tent go up?
Yeah, so this tent was established in early March, I think in like March 8th or 10th, and as soon as it was started, we received on average, in a typical day in March, on average we receive about 1,000 refugees per day. And back in March, the weather was like a freezing cold. Sometimes we have frost on the ground, we have snowing, and so it was freezing. And people have been telling us this is the only warm tent for the nights. And so we have like 8 heaters, and also we have a very high-powered heater on the ground, and we have like the airbag, airbag, sleeping equipment. And we've been giving out a lot of blankets and a sleeping bag to assist with the people. And this is the time that I feel like humanity should overcome everything. We need to be here.
Yes. No, I feel very much in the same way as well. Now, to return to China. How many people are on your side or on our side in China?
You know, the dictatorship is always a minority, a tiny portion of the people who want to control the majority of the power and wealth without the consent. So there are only a tiny portion of the Chinese Communist Party member who we call them the Chinese Communist kleptocrats. And probably they're a very tiny portion. Most of the Chinese people within the Chinese Communist Party membership, they're not bad people, they're just in a bad situation. So I think at least there are at least 500 million people in China is openly on our side, and probably there are more people who are secretly supporting us, but they're quietly defecting. But it works in their best interest not to identify themselves in public, but we have more silent supporters within the Chinese Communist Party, especially within the high-ranking government official and the military leadership, and that's what scares the Chinese Communist Party to death, because they're not afraid of the Western, people, against the Chinese Communist Party. They're most afraid of the people, especially members within the Chinese Communist Party, to defect. Thank you.
So in this case, this is the same situation as in Russia, of course, because this war is not really aimed at the Ukrainians, but rather against Russians to show what will happen to them if they themselves try to overthrow the dictatorship. But you think that 50% of the adult population, 500 million is roughly 50%, isn't it? Roughly adult population.
Adult, yeah.
And is there anybody within the Chinese, so I don't know Chinese politics, but is there anybody you know within the leadership who could be more liberal minded, who could want to overthrow to have a peaceful transition as happened, for example, in the Soviet Union in 1990?
Yes, that's a great question, and that's what we hope for, that's what we're working on. And because we want the revolution to be peaceful, non-threatening, non-harming to the Chinese people. And so I think if you look at how the communism fell in the former Soviet Union, in the former Eastern Bloc, in the early 90s, you know, it was peaceful. And
yeah, sure.
so
in most places it was peaceful, not everywhere, yeah, but most places it was
most
peaceful.
cases are peaceful. And so this one has always been peaceful, and there has never been any violence from the Chinese whistleblower movement against the dictatorship, because we believe the civil disobedience and the people's awakening is the most powerful way to disintegrate the communism.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, well, it's been very nice talking to you. Thank you very much.
So, can you tell me what is your name and where are you from?
So, my name is Alan. Oh, I'll just turn off my own camera now.
Yes, so for our camera.
I'll just.
Okay.
This is actually recorded twice, so it's like 2 interviews. Because obviously that gives us more time for drinking if we sort of do it together. So, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
And more videos on this channel.
Okay.